Okay, so I've been writing again. I actually wrote a lot. This is like 3 pages long. Um, Talking about the abuse situation, it brought it all up to my mind, and I just decided that I needed to get some things out. So, one of the things that they say, the way that they can prove I'm a liar, that I lied about everything, is that they claim all of my stories I stole from other people. That I took things from A Child Called It or other, published child abuse stories. And I didn't. Anybody who reads my book and reads A Child Called It would not see any similarities. But that's what they're accusing me of. um, so I wrote down just what I remember because there are things that I remember that are very hazy, and then there are things that I was told that I remember clearly but don't remember at all. And then there are things that I've been told recently that I don't remember at all. Like Kathy saying that I shit myself at that park. I don't remember that happening. I don't deny that it happened, but it's not a memory that I have. So what I remember, let's see. My memories are vague because my mind doesn't really want to remember. The first memory I have is of being in the hospital. I was about 5 or 6. From what my grandmother told me, I had been running a high fever and had a seizure, or a couple, and my mom didn't bother taking me to the hospital until I was in a coma for a while. They thought that I might be brain damaged from that incident because I woke up with complete amnesia. The only thing I could remember was Meemaw. And the only thing I wanted was Meemaw. And y'all can say that's just because she spoiled me. But most children, if they're raised in a loving home and they're sick or injured, they're going to cry out for their mother. I didn't cry out for my mother. I cried out for my grandmother. Because I knew who really cared about me. And I knew that my mother didn't. And crying out for her was never going to help because she simply did not care about me. She was in too much pain to care about anybody but herself. I remember never wanting to go back home. It was a fight every week when my grandfather said it's time to go back, because I never wanted to go back to that house. Sorry. I remember kids making fun of me for smelling bad because my mom didn't clean my clothes and they didn't buy me much. Because my grandmother took care of me, my parents refused to. They essentially said that I was hers, even though I was with them 5 days a week. Everything regarding me was on my grandparents. My grandmother wanted to adopt me when I was a baby, and my father said no. He needed me to live with them and go to school in their district so that he could receive the tax break. Otherwise, my grandmother would have just adopted me then. And my dad didn't say, "Oh, we want her home because she's our child." he said, well, we need her here for the taxes, that, you know. I remember my head always itching. I had head lice for 18 years. Not a joke. I remember bleaching my hair as a teenager, trying to kill them myself. I remember sitting on my grandmother's bed watching The Simpsons with kerosene dripping down in my eyes from her trying to kill them. She would go to extensive lengths at her house, and then I would go back home and get them right back. I remember my mom always being drunk and angry or being completely freaked out. I remember my dad always screaming and slamming things and threatening. I remember laying in bed at night, unable to sleep from the screaming, wondering if he was going to kill her, wondering what would happen after he killed her, if he would kill us. Sleeping in school, sleeping on the school bus, never having clean clothes, never told I was loved or proud of. The school once called to tell my parents that I was the best reader in the school. We had taken a test, and my father cussed the teacher out and told her never to call him again unless I had burned the school down. That he could teach a monkey to read, and he didn't care. He wasn't going to applaud me. That was about the time that I gave up on school, because I realized that whether I did well or not, nobody was going to care. So by high school, I just stopped. I graduated, but I don't remember even turning in any work my senior year. I was so checked out. Everybody said, well, you're so smart. But I just didn't care about learning. I didn't think it mattered because nobody at home cared whether I did well or not. So I had no reason to care. After the school called my dad that time, he punished me by telling me I couldn't go to my grandmother's that weekend, and I ran away. My parents didn't report me missing, though. I ran away about, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And a police officer found me about 2 a.m. sleeping in a tractor parked out in a field about maybe 10-15 miles away from my house. I was trying to get to my grandmother's, but I didn't really know the way. And then I got tired and I wanted to hide somewhere. So the cop took me back home and scolded me because my parents told him that I was a troublemaker and that I had just run off because I had gotten mad and they didn't even realize I was gone. My mom slamming the car door on my hand and my fingernail coming off on the bus and wrapping my bleeding finger up in my little dress. And all the other kids being freaked out because they thought I was bleeding to death. My father sexually abusing me after my grandfather died. My grandmother drugging me to deal with all of my problems after my grandfather died. My sister telling me I was a liar when I told her what my dad did because, in her words, I was too fat and ugly for him to ever want. My little sister reporting my dad, and weeks of our mom screeching all night outside our bedroom doors that we ruined her life, took her man away, just destroyed everything for her. And my little sister dropping the charges so that our mother would love her again. Because she couldn't bear our mother not loving her. Being about 5 or 6 years old and being put on the couch and told with my older sister to watch them fight so that when the police came, we could tell the police who had hit who first. A few years after that, my mom sitting us on the couch and demanding to know if my father had done anything to us or his friends, and screaming at us and calling us liars when we said yes. My 16th birthday, I came home from school and my mom asked me if I would watch the babies. My older sister was having children, and she said she would go to the store and get me a cake. She came back 4 hours later without a cake, drunk. I remember my mom buying alcohol instead of food and being beat for it because my dad had given her $200 specifically to go and fill the house up, and she filled the cabinet up with Crown Royal and Wild Turkey and Jim Beam and all her best friends. Always wondering if he was going to kill her and what was going to happen. Dad shoving the photo album at us and screaming, if we were so abused, why were we smiling in these pictures? The roaches. There were always roaches. And y'all are going to say, well, it's Florida. Everybody has roaches. California has roaches too. I still don't have them in my apartment. I lived in a truck and didn't have roaches. I lived in a tent on the sidewalk where the roaches were outside in the gutter and I didn't have them in my tent. So that's not an excuse. There's a lot, you know? There's a lot. There's my graduation, when everybody in the family was passing drugs around. Embarrassed the crap out of Meemaw. She was trying to give me a nice graduation dinner and she sees Kathy passing painkillers across the table to my mom, and my mom passing them across to our cousin and passing them across to Jennifer, and listening to them say, Meemaw's boyfriend's paying for this, so drink up, celebrate. And feeling so guilty for the cost of that meal just because I graduated school. It wasn't a celebration of me graduating. It was just they had any reason to celebrate was a reason to celebrate for these people. Kathy says herself, she views my high school diploma as just a participation award. So I don't know why she attended the ceremony, aside from because Florida was where the drugs were at the time. There's a lot more, you know? There's so much. There's my husband asking my dad's permission to marry me, and my dad telling him that he had 2 perfectly good daughters in the house. One was underage and one had 3 kids, but perfectly good, much better than the one that he chose. One of the schools they gave me clothes once. They framed it as a contest that I won, but it was really the school wanting me to have clothes and toys and things that it was clear I didn't have. And they came by the house to drop off this big box, and my mom put it out to the trash because she said we don't accept charity. And I had to continue going to school stinking, wearing the same clothes, because they didn't accept charity. But a few years later, when the school donated a computer for my little sister, they accepted that. What they meant was they weren't accepting help with me, specifically. There's old memories of my little brother. The knowledge of why he was the way he was. he got so used to the constant screaming that he was afraid of silence. On nights that they weren't fighting, they had to leave a TV or a radio going at a good level so that my little brother could feel comfortable enough to sleep. It didn't scare him because it was his life, he was used to it. It scared him when it was gone. That's how bad it got. And it didn't end between them until my dad killed himself. And he killed himself in the process of beating her. My older sister called me one night and told me Mom and Dad were fighting. Mom locked herself in the bathroom. He grabbed the gun and he told her that if she didn't come out, he was going to kill himself. And then he did. We had heard him threaten to kill himself and kill her so many times before it actually happened. And I always knew that that situation between them was not ever going to end unless one of them died. Keep telling me I don't know what abuse is. Keep telling me I'm just a liar who no one will ever believe. It won't stop it from hurting. And it won't stop me from speaking out. Even if nobody ever believes me, I know the truth.